it well. Played it very, very, very well indeed.
No more slices for you.
Oh, look at that for judgment.
You'll learn.
Hello, everybody. A very happy new year and welcome back to Slice. We had, I think, our first week off. It might have been our second, but our first proper holiday. Anyway, I think a well-earned break for Sam and I. How was yours, Sam? Good Christmas?
I had a wonderful Christmas, Ben.
Wow.
It was just always nice to spend quality time with family and loved ones. And I don't know if you may be the same, but I find that in the year, it's sort of, you get sort of fleeting moments all the time. So it's nice to have some proper downtime. And I'm raring to go for year 2 of Sliced.
Excellent. And I would echo those sentiments. We had a lovely time here. We made Christmas dinner for the in-laws. It went off without a hitch. No complaints, no aftermath. Everything went smoothly. I'm ready to get back to golf. It's a shame. It is a shame there's no tournament this week. I suppose some will feel that it builds the anticipation more for the Sony Open and the Dubai Invitational next week, but I'd love to be getting stuck into the Tournament of Champions. So it's a shame we don't start there, but from then on, from next week onwards, pretty much, I've not sort of aligned the schedules this year, but pretty much golf every week until Mauritius. So we've got plenty to look forward to.
I'm disappointed to hear there weren't any sort of Coley household catastrophes, as we've become accustomed to.
It didn't go off without this. It will look like, I sent it to my friend, and you can see a bump there, can't you? Slightly. He was like, "Oh, that looks fine." There is a slight chance I broke a bone in my hand, celebrating Zubimendi's goal against Aston Villa last Tuesday, because I do a vigorous punch sometimes when something good happens. Probably my peak vigorous punch was Sami Välimäki against Brandon Stone in Oman. But I did a vigorous punch and slipped and punched at my full velocity, which granted is not as full as others, the door frame in our lounge. And my friend, who is a dentist and therefore has some qualifications in the health arena, was there with me. He was like, it blew up. It blew up in seconds. He was like, "Mate, this is a really bad injury for a quiet Tuesday night in." We decided we didn't need to take further action. I don't think it's broken, but even if it is broken, it's probably one of those ones that will fix itself. So there you go, Sam. There was something, but I wasn't.
How hard is this? Is this sort of punch in the? I mean, I'm picturing sort of Victor Hovland when he, he does those really kind of. Is it one of those?
It's like. It's hard enough when you punch a wooden structure. Yeah. And I caught it right on the edge, and it drew blood, but more to the point, it properly swelled up. And it does feel like it's getting better. I've broken bones in both hands before, actually, and it felt this didn't feel as severe. And
presumably the other ones weren't also celebrating golfers winning tournaments.
We haven't got time for that, but. Yeah.
I will just briefly say that I've also had a door frame related injury. This is some time ago, but
right.
I think it's relevant given that you've had a door frame related injury. So this was 20 years ago, and I was at university, a bit more than that actually, and I was kind of jumping around to a song that I liked at the time, and I was sort of just jumping around my room, and I sort of forgot where the door was basically, and I just jumped straight up into the door frame and had to have stitches in my head. So
this is wonderful. Yeah. This is wonderful. I'm sorry to carry it on. If you are new to Slides, we are not a podcast for middle-aged mishaps. We are a podcast for professional golf, but there's none of that this week, although we have got loads to talk about. One of the family favourite sort of videos on the phones or whatever is when I first started playing football with my son, and we were running around a field nearby our former home in Leeds. And I was sort of dribbling and messing around, and I went head first into this very small metal goal frame, like those 5-a-side ones that some parks have permanently. And there's sort of a 5-second pause in the video as the camera falls to the floor and everything, and then you just hear my little son say, "You should have ducked." So there we go.
Wonderful.
Christmas was good. Apart from that. Shall we talk about some golf, even in its sort of fake form of TGL?
Yes, it's been a very quiet week, as you'd expect, on the golf front, but TGL has restarted. There have been 2 matches since we've been gone. Firstly, it was Atlanta Drive, last season's champions, of course, who defeated New York Golf Club 6-4. Atlanta Drive with a couple of new faces on the team in the shape of Corey Connors and Chris Gotterup. And I was intrigued about this because I kind of wondered, because I don't know if you remember this, Ben, but Nick Dunlap actually had a stint for Atlanta Drive last year. And I wonder whether
did he miss the screen and get told he's not allowed to come back?
I mean, you've stolen my gag, because that's what I
sorry.
thought is, because his driving has dropped off so badly. I wondered whether they just, looked over him when they needed to fill these spots, and they thought, sod Nick Dunlap. Let's call up Corey Connors. He won't miss a screen.
That's exactly what they must have thought. They were very late replacements, weren't they? I mean, I'm very keen not to spend too long talking about computer golf that I didn't see, but I know that Patrick Cantlay and Lucas Glover were very late withdrawals, right? Patrick Cantlay released a statement. This is amazing. Yeah. Like, he released an actual statement with his letterhead or whatever. Amazing. Yeah, but they stood up, didn't they? The new guys did all right.
They did all right, yeah. I think they were both within 24 hours, as you say. So it was very late notice. But yeah, another win for Atlanta Drive, another defeat for New York Golf Club, who I think haven't won many, I don't think. And then the other match which happened over the weekend was Boston Common against my beloved LAGC, and unfortunately, LAGC lost 7-5. So and that was the first ever win for Boston Common. And maybe that's because they brought on board Michael Bjornsson. I can only imagine that can be what has given them their first victory. Did you watch any of these matches?
No. And here's the thing: I really quite like it. I just haven't got time for that. Like, you can't do everything you want to do, have you? Can you? So no, I really quite like it, but not enough, not quite enough. But I will obviously watch this week, because I believe we'll come to it in World of Golf This Week section, but I believe my team are in action. I just had to remind myself what my team was, but they are in action this week.
We will come to that, Ben, because I want to talk to you about the Bay GC. And the only last thing to say about TGL, obviously I noticed that obviously LAGC lost, but they were without Tommy Fleetwood, and I wonder if they're missing him. Ultimately, I don't know whether he decided he didn't want to play this particular match. He's presumably in Dubai this time of year, so they looked elsewhere. But I think they desperately need him back on the roster, and hopefully their next match will be with him, because Colin Morikawa is not playing great at the moment. Thigala is off the back of a very, very poor season. So really, Justin Rose is the only one who's playing good golf at the moment. But yes, probably enough TGL for now. And we've got very stacked in the news section, in the news since we've been away. And I will start with Mito Pereira announcing his retirement from professional golf, which caught me slightly off guard. I must be honest, Ben, because he's not old by any means. He's I actually forget how old he is, but he's in his 30s, I believe. So we certainly are not used to golfers retiring at that age, unless it's injury based or something major has happened. Mito Pereira, of course, lost his place on LIV. It would have been a case of going to play on the Asian Tour, I suspect, and maybe he just didn't fancy that, and he's decided he'd rather go back to Chile and spend some time with his family. But yeah, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, time will prove how many people really do want to go down to the Asian Tour and fight for very limited return places to LIV. I mean, it's LIV Promotions this week, I think. Mito could have gone there. He'd have been, by quite some distance, the best player. So to me, it doesn't perfectly add up to say that he simply doesn't want to work his way back there. Like, there has to be a little bit more to it. Because my instinctive reaction at the time is, well, this might happen a lot, because we can sort of LIV apologists can talk about the pathways all they like, but for a Western educated golfer, if you like, someone who grew up playing in the PGA Tour ecosystem, the idea that, it's okay if you get relegated from LIV, you can play on the Asian Tour, might sound great, but it's not going to appeal to many of them, if any. And I've got a question for you. Freddie Ketterup last year, right, had a disastrous LIV campaign. He finished outside the top 40 on 10 of 12 starts. How much money do you think he earned in prize money?
So have you got that in front of you?
I do, yeah.
3.5 million.
It's actually nowhere near that, which is a relief. I almost interrupted Ed, say, by the way, it's not as high as I thought, but it's still loads. He won just over $1 million, right, for finishing last every week.
Yeah,
basically. That would have won the Asian Tour money list by a long way, about $250,000. So the drop down is so significant. In someone like Pereira, obviously he also had the sign up fee. Like, he was given some money to join LIV in the first place. He joined at the peak of his powers, and I think in the region of $30 million in earnings on LIV before you factor in however much money they paid him, which will probably be in seven figures. So 30, 40, 50 million, whatever you want to call it. He's earned that in 3 or 4 years, and now there's an element of, well, I don't want to play the Asian Tour. I think that is logical. But I will say that for that argument to be sort of without any holes, you'd expected to have seen him at LIV Promotions at least having a go. And then if that doesn't go well, then he retires. So I think there's probably more to it. And one point to make, he did walk away from golf as an amateur. He's 15 or 16 years old. He was at the IMG Academy in Florida, and he quit. And he quit for a couple of years, and he came back, and that's why he was behind. When he came back, he was behind Joaquin Niemann, who had always looked up to him. And I dug out his quotes. He said, why did you do that? And he said, I just got tired of it. One day he said, I got tired of golf. So he walked away. He played some other sports, and he was asked, why did you come back? He said, one day I wanted to play golf again, so I came back. So through that, I'm suggesting this may not be the last we've seen of Mito Pereira. We'll see.
No, but it'd be interesting to see what pathways he has if he does want to come back. Because presumably it's only, I mean, I don't know, what is there for him? I mean, the Asian Tour, but then will his status have elapsed on that after a couple of years? So I don't know.
Question. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I'd imagine if he does come back, we'll see him re-enter the PGA Tour ecosystem at whatever level he can, or whether that's Q School or whether it's PGA Tour Latino America, whether actually after he served his suspension, should that remain the case, maybe he'll have some sort of status as a past champion on the Korn Ferry Tour or something like that. I don't know precisely what will be available to him, but I don't know. If you ask me now, put me on the spot, have we seen the last of Mito Pereira? I doubt it, but I don't know. We don't know the bloke. So
no, we don't. Well, the potentially bigger news in the LIV ecosystem, of course, is that Brooks Koepka is leaving the tour. I was going to say he hasn't actually announced this on his own accounts, to my knowledge. LIV sort of announced it in the form of saying Taylor Gooch is now the captain of Smash GC, which was a creative way of doing it. But anyway, Brooks Koepka is leaving LIV, and yeah, I mean, we talked about it, didn't we, a few weeks ago, about the fact that there had been musings this might happen. Josh Carpenter, I think, was the first to report on that. So it wasn't completely out of the blue. It's still a surprise. It is a big loss for LIV, whatever anyone says. I mean, he's one of the three marquee names, I suppose, on LIV, you'd say. Obviously, multiple major champion. So it is a big loss, and it really does remain to be seen what happens now, what the PGA Tour decide to do. If, of course, he wants to play on the PGA Tour, which we don't know the answer to. There's a lot of unknowns here. Does he want to play on the PGA Tour? Will the PGA Tour have him back? If they will have him back, what are the sanctions? So yeah, and what are your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, I mean, important as you hinted at there. Like him and his wife had some personal family difficulties at the end of last year that are way more important than golf, and it may well be that he genuinely wanted to take a break from the sport, and that we don't see him again, even by the Masters. Right, that is possible. Again, completely guessing. I would be surprised, but it is possible. So we're going to learn what the truth is in time. It's a blow for LIV, 100%. He was never a good fit. You know, he took the money at a time when anyone who's watched the first season of Full Swing will know that he was badly injured. And I think there's a clip where he says, I don't know if I can compete anymore, or something like that, isn't there? And that's when LIV came along. So for him, it was a safety net at a time he needed it. And I don't think there was ever any real buy-in in his team. Obviously never wore the logo and stuff like that. He didn't like 54 holes. He didn't want to be a agent of change in the game of golf. He wants to win important golf tournaments, and I think he won one live event and showed some signs of emotion, but that could have been any event. It was about his triumph over physical adversity. Obviously, we saw him on the DP World Tour at the back end of last year. The entries for the Dubai Desert Classic are out later this week. That for me is going to be the first interesting sign of what might be to come. He is not listed as a DP World Tour member on the list of exempt players on the DP World Tour website at the moment. He would be able to join the DP World Tour as far as I understand it. But I don't know. And we'll see. But I think if he's going to play in the Masters, I guess in summary, if he's going to play in the Masters, he's got to play before then. He's the time of his career he's in now with the injuries he's had. He might have 5-6 goes at winning the Masters, which he is desperate to do. He does not turn up there in April cold. I just can't imagine him doing that.
No, but it's really interesting to see what he chooses to, which events he chooses to play. I'm sure if he can, he'll be able to get as many sponsors invites as he wants if he needs them on the DP World Tour or elsewhere. But what tournament did he go and play in India? I mean, I don't know. If you're looking for one near the Masters, there's not that many. But yeah, it depends how close do you need that event to be as a kind of warm up. I mean, ideally, I think in my mind it needs to be a week or two beforehand, really. But yeah, it would be bizarre to see him turn up to the Masters without having played a single tournament this year.
Do you think we'll see him on the PGA Tour? Because I mean, for those who don't follow it really closely, at the moment the sort of deal has been that if you're a PGA Tour member and you join LIV, you have to serve a 1-year suspension, and we've laughed at the fact that that's applied even to those who have never been PGA Tour members, such as Laurie Cantor, Eugenio Shikara, and others. Hudson Swafford's probably been the most high profile, where he felt undeservedly has to sit out a year and he has nowhere to play really. But apart from the Asian Tour, which he doesn't seem interested in doing. Koepka, I think Bob Harrig has been really good on this. He's just an excellent journalist, obviously, but he's been very good covering LIV since its inception. But he's pointed out that actually this is without precedent, just because they did what they did to Cantor and to Swafford. There's nothing actually clear that says they have to treat Koepka the same. And if I'm Brian Rolap, I'm thinking, well, yeah, I'm going to find whatever loophole I need to find, right? So what do you think of that? Do you think they will? Do you think that's what they're doing now at PGA Tour HQ, like trying to find a way to get him back on the tour?
Well, the problem is it kind of, it's still a players' organisation, isn't it? So they have to keep the players happy as well. And from what I understand from reading various articles from various people, there are some players who are very on board with the idea of Brooks coming back. I think Rory McIlroy would probably be one. But there are others who really don't want that to happen, or they feel that it's not fair for someone to be able to come back having taken the bag, gone to LIV, and then just come back straight away. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm really, really intrigued to see what the PGA Tour do. But yeah, they can make whatever rule they require. They can just make up a rule if they want to that says 5-time major champions don't have to serve suspension. If they wanted to do that. So they, ultimately it will benefit the PGA Tour to get him back into the ecosystem. There's no doubt about that. It's just a case of whether they can keep everyone happy. And I really want to see what happens. I do think in the fullness of time he will play on the PGA Tour again. Whether it's this year, I don't know. But yeah, that's my thought.
Doesn't it sum up though how much more interesting LIV's off season is than its on season? It's not at all interesting to a lot of people once it starts. You know who the players are, you know what they're going to do. Obviously they're doing an extra round and whatever this year, which we'll come to. But the one thing I'll say they have added to golf, and don't get me wrong, I get bored of talking about it myself. I can't imagine what it's like to listen to, but the one thing they've added is intrigue and uncertainty, because it's all hidden. Like we have to speculate. But once the golf starts,
Well, let's stay on LIV, Ben. And Bryson has been talking to Flushing It Golf, and he had various comments because he was basically asked about the fact that with Brooks leaving, what does that mean for Bryson? What does that mean for the league? Bryson says it's a scenario that is very unique. With Brooks leaving, it definitely throws in some unique things. And look, like I've said all along, I want to do this. I want to grow team golf across the globe, but it has to be right. And there's a lot of things that have to be done in order for it to be right. And he says, and this I think is quite a big thing to say, things have got to change. He said things have got to improve. I think the CEO, Scott O'Neill, has done a fabulous job with the year he's had. And I think this year is going to be even better now he's got the right people in place and he can run the organisation the way he wants to do this. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially with new branding coming on. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, and in terms of his contract, when he was asked about that, he says, "Look, it's confidential. I'm not going to share too much, but the conversations are in process. We have to get to a place where both parties have a good understanding of one another. It's getting to a place that makes sense for both sides, and that is kind of the intriguing thing because he has, now he's in this sort of position where they've lost a big name." He's got a lot of leverage, really, because he knows that he can probably put his price tag up a bit if he wants to, and they're going to want him. Obviously, they really want him to stay because if he was to leave, then that for me is the sort of death knell in the coffin of LIV. They cannot do with him leaving as well. You're literally just left with Rahm at that point. Of the kind of big names, you've got people like Tyrrell Hatton, of course, but in terms of the people who really kind of move the needle. But yeah, and then the last thing he says, I think it can happen in terms of reaching a suitable contract. I think that can happen, but you never know. Life throws curveballs, and obviously we saw what happened with Brooks leaving, and that was quite a shock to a lot of people. So yeah, well, your thoughts on Bryson, and do you think he'll renew his contract? Is he likely to stay?
Well, he's hit the jackpot, hasn't he? Because he's even got a test case in Brooks Koepka, someone else sort of crossing the Rubicon or trying to, and he will know exactly where he stands with the PGA Tour pretty soon. He has lived completely over a barrel, right? And this was always, this is not revisionism. Everyone was saying this at the time. Well, everyone who was willing to apply a critical eye to a nation state offering $500 million to a golfer. Like if we're gonna maybe think about why they might be doing that, and also talk about the sustainability of this project. And people, they've got unlimited wealth or whatever. Yeah, okay, but when Bryson's contract was up, what was going to happen? Like either it's already failed and we all go back to where we were before, or he's going to say, "Yeah, I want that again. Actually, I want more because he's more famous than he was then. He's become a double major champion. His profile has never been higher. He's borderline part of the US government. So, the bloke has them over a barrel, and there is no way to put this other than like that is a catastrophic failure of planning on LIV's part, Greg Norman and everyone else who was there at the inception. This was going to happen, and now they have a choice. We either pay Bryson exactly what he wants, or we risk losing him. And if you lose Bryson, Jon Rahm is going. Jon Rahm, at the end of his contract, I will be staggered if he signs another contract with LIV. Bryson, the entire future of the organisation depends on one golfer. So you've got the whims of that golfer. That's your first thing. What if he gets injured? What if he gets injured? What if something happens to him? They are totally dependent. And that's where the PGA Tour are fortunate. It's not through better management. I'm not defending their management and their leadership over the last 5, 10, 15 years. Their product is so good. And I sometimes think this when I watch, like, for example, the Premier League, right? I think some of the level of TV coverage of the Premier League in this country is abysmal, but it doesn't matter because the product is so good. And the same is true of the PGA Tour. They can make mistakes, but the product's so good. And they have never been in a situation where, one player is going to determine their future. You can say, if Rory had left, maybe. But they've still got Scotty, and they've still got a product. And LIV don't have the product. LIV have the player. And the player now gets to call the shots. And some of those quotes, I think Bryson's playing this pretty shrewdly, and he's going to get something out of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating again to see what happens there. And maybe, I don't know, it's often not really confirmed, is it, when players sign contracts? So we won't necessarily hear, will we? But yeah, he's got a lot of leverage. We'll monitor that.
I think we'll hear if he signs one. We do, if you're LIV, if he signs a contract,
I suppose that's true. They're not going to keep. They don't want to keep that under wraps, do they?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. But he better do, otherwise they're in trouble.
Well, yeah. Last thing on LIV before we move on, they have confirmed there's going to be 57 players in the league in 2026, and 3 wildcard spots are going to be awarded at the LIV Promotions event this week, which we're going to talk about shortly. On to other things. Ben, do you want to take this? So Luke Donald was interviewed by The Times. And he talked about Don Rea's handling of the Bethpage situation.
Yeah, and some great golf coverage in this country at the moment. Like The Times, The Telegraph, Bunkered, we've mentioned a few times lately. You know, a lot of really good golf coverage the last couple of years. But Luke Donald, interviewed in The Times, talks about Don Rea's handling of the Bethpage situation. He says that was disappointing because anyone who was in Rome and New York knew it was completely different. Singing hats off to your bank account is slightly different to, and I won't repeat what he says, you can read the story in The Times, but something far more sinister. And Luke Donald goes on to say this wasn't just 1 or 2 guys, it was hundreds, maybe thousands. As a leader, you have a responsibility. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. Just own up to it. Just say we should have done more. This isn't acceptable and we'll do better next time. I would have loved to have heard that message rather than, well, it happens and it happened over there. I don't think that's what leaders should do. And for my part, I'll cross to you here, Sam, but I think the word leader there, like I'm fairly cynical. But I think the older I get, I'm sort of more understanding of the characteristics of someone who really is like a leader in a business sense or whatever it may be. And I think it's a very clear distinction between Luke Donald and the people he's been opposite in the last couple of Ryder Cups, and also the people on the American side behind the Ryder Cup. And Don Rea in particular, it's just that guy's not a leader, like in the way that he needed to be in that situation.
He's not a leader, and
good singer though.
Luke makes some good points, and a friend of mine who I'm sure you've got friends like this who don't really watch golf but will tune in for the Ryder Cup every time it's on. He was absolutely he was appalled. He's like, what are they going to do? I can't believe what happened. And I can't believe that the PGA of America haven't actually done anything about this, or haven't sort of come out and said, This crossed the line. This shouldn't have happened. And he's right. I suppose in a way I'm almost desensitized to it. Once you're kind of watching it and it's all happening, you just sort of get used to it, and you don't. But actually, we step back a bit. It was actually pretty appalling, wasn't it? Then it needed leadership. It needed someone to come out and say, this was unacceptable. It won't happen again. And that still hasn't really happened, has it? Yeah, I mean, to move on to our next section, Rory McIlroy makes similar comments because he was on Stick to Football podcast, and he said, I heard stuff about my daughter that I couldn't even repeat here. It's horrific. And he says, Keegan and I have talked about this. You have to play into the home field advantage, absolutely. But during the competition on Friday night and Saturday night, after the stuff we heard on the course, there was an opportunity for either Keegan or some of the teammates to be like, let's just calm it down here. Let's try to play the match in the right spirit. And he does say some of them did that, but obviously Keegan had the biggest platform of the week in being the captain. I feel like he could have said something on that Friday or Saturday night, and he didn't. Would you concur with that?
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with any of it. And in general, it underlines a growing trend, I suppose, the way I see it anyway. Like, I think people used to be better at criticizing their own fan base, whether that's in sport or in other arenas. People are terrified of pissing off their core support and standing up to them, basically. And it's a shame. I think it's like if you're a football fan, and I think football fans would largely be very good at this. You hear something that shouldn't be said in the crowd, you should be able to point that out. It's not a great example because there are other reasons you might feel you're not comfortable doing so. But in this situation, it's a no-brainer. As the leader of that organization, you have to be able to call out your own support and say, we expect better. And this is all before even getting to the point that actually it undermined USA's chances of winning the Ryder Cup. So it's just a total failure.
Yeah.
But the question will be what changes in 4 years, because it's hard to put it back in the box. That's the problem. Again, in general, not to make this about anything more than golf, but in general, you just worry about that people have got less shame. They're willing to push the boundaries more these days, and think, well, if I don't know, even if I get thrown out, I'll be viral on Twitter or something. I don't know. It's just I'm generally positive about the state of the world, but it's just how people are these days, and in herds. And I think it'd be very, very hard to have a Ryder Cup in 3.5 years now in the United States that doesn't cross the line. It'd be very hard.
Yeah, maybe some of it comes down to what happens in Ireland. I mean, if Ireland gets nasty, and I don't expect it to be anywhere near on the level of Bethpage, but if there is any of that kind of nastiness from the European side, then that may be seen as a ticket to do the same again in 2 years after that. So, yeah.
And look, there shouldn't be, should there? And I have every faith there. Actually, like the European crowd, I'm sure this will annoy some Americans, but I think the European crowd will do a far better job of self-policing. Like, I think if you're in Ireland at Adair Manor and you say something about Scotty Scheffler's kids, an Irish person or a Brit or whatever, a Frenchman, an Italian, a Spaniard, whoever it may be, will tap you on the shoulder and tell you to shut the fuck up. Simple as that. And so it should be. Yeah. I'm sure we'll do a good job of that.
Yeah. Sticking on McIlroy's appearance on Sticks of Football, he also talked a little bit about LIV players returning. He says, I think they've already paid their consequence. They've made the money, but they've paid the consequence in terms of the reputation and some of the things they've lost by going over there. If it made the overall tour stronger to have Bryson back and whoever else, I would be okay with it. But I recognise not everyone is in my position. It will be up to the collective group of PGA Tour members to make that decision. That comes back to what we were talking about, really. He's obviously in a very different position to a lot of players, in that he is obviously not struggling for his for his living. He's not someone who's going to be struggling for status at any point in his career. It's really those players who are 100th on the money list or around about there who are going to be worrying about players coming back, especially with obviously the PGA Tour going from 125 cards to 100. The timing of that is not is not ideal really in terms of welcoming players back, is it? So yeah, and then he also talks about LIV's sustainability, and he says if LIV is failing to capture the imagination and they've spent so much money on this venture and it's not making a return for them, I don't know how much longer they can keep it going. And yeah, you can't. It's hard to argue with that, really.
Absolutely. I think the thing on this for me is, I think Scott O'Neill's such an upgrade on Greg Norman that he gets a bit of a pass for simply being competent. But one of the questions that doesn't seem to be asked and certainly isn't answered is if you're pivoting. He's definitely. I wish I'd prepared better and got the quotes, but he definitely made a concession at the end of last year that was sort of like, well, PGA Tour is going to be the leader in America. We're going to be the leaders in the rest of the world. Now, aside from the fact that you've got the DP World Tour to deal with there, sunshine, get back in your box. Aside from that fact, there's a problem there in that definitely is not what the league was sold on. That is definitely not what your, for example, American fans, because most fans of LIV will be from America. It's a numbers game. Yeah. Like they'll have a good audience in Australia, but most fans of LIV will be from America. But also, virtually every player on that tour was playing in America permanently beforehand. So again, you've said to them, we're hosting loads of events in America. But no, actually, we realise now we can't win in America. Our focus is going to be global. And that's, if I was Bryson DeChambeau, that's something I'd be asking. I actually don't doubt, I think largely for vanity reasons personally, but I don't doubt that Bryson wants to be seen to help grow the game worldwide. No question about it. But I don't think he wants to be solely dedicated to that pursuit and not play as often or as meaningful events in America. Now, obviously, there's also the gap between what they say and what they do, which is that all, apart from LIV Adelaide, all the best LIV events are, and the most important ones are in America. So, again, I think he gets a bit of a pass on that, but I think Rory's right. How long they can go on is up to them, but I think we're getting to a key point now, and I remain confident that LIV is only going in one direction, and it's not the way they want to go.
I mean, the other thing really, which is going to be a problem, is the signing of new players or the failure to sign new players. I mean, it's been a very bad off-season, you'd say, to date. Now, who knows? Maybe in a week's time, someone's going to be announced. But as it stands, it's been a very, very bad off-season. And if you're a player who is potentially contemplating it, let's say Siwoo Kim maybe is contemplating it still, who knows? And you see Brooks leave. You see Bryson talking about the fact that he's not, wavering potentially, and maybe they have the same view as yourself that Rahm may not stick around forever. Then it's not really the most appealing thing, is it, to sign with LIV at that point with a league that could be going down the pan? So that's a real struggle. That's a real problem if you're not bringing on players to replace the likes of Brooks Koepka.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they've tried to sign every Korean golfer on the PGA Tour, and I am expecting them to be successful at some level in that. Siwoo said he's not going. People have changed their mind before, but if you can't get Siwoo Kim to join, it says a lot. We're a long way from the days of Rahm and Hatton and Bryson and DJ and Brooks, aren't we? Cam Smith, they signed some serious players, and at the moment they're signing very good ones. Laurie Cantor's a fine player. They are signing some good players, but they are not signing elite golfers, recognizable household names. And even if when they've tried to pursue this identity by country line, poor Kevin Na, as we've said before, but they're trying to go down this route of, right, we've got a Korean team, we've got this, we've got that. Well, they can't even do that. It's not great. It's been, as you said, it's been a very, very bad couple of months for LIV, which is fantastic, I should add, just to get rid of the seriousness here. I am thrilled to be reporting this.
Right, moving on to another section. So this is something I'm going to put in for our first episode of 2026. And I wanted to do a little prediction game, Ben, which is going to last for the entire season. So this isn't like a fly-by-night thing. This isn't a one-week thing like we do with Highest Bidder. This is something that is going to last for the entire season. We're going to both say 10 players that we think are going to win on the DP World Tour this year. Now, we said we're not allowed PGA players who predominantly play on the PGA Tour. So players who predominantly play on the DP World Tour, we're going to name 10 each. We're going to do it in a draft format. So we're going back and forth. And then we're going to see at the end of the year who has done best. I suspect it will be you, but I'm up for the challenge nonetheless.
I don't know. I mean, you love a quiz, don't you? I can imagine you on you must watch Only Connect. I've just got you down as an Only Connect. You don't?
No, I've never seen it.
Do you listen to the news quiz on BBC Radio?
Nope.
Okay, I've got all of this wrong. As we said before Christmas, Sam and I actually don't know each other very well.
I like a quiz, but it's got to be a quiz that I'm like. I play the Popmaster quiz, which is now on Greatest Hits Radio, even though some of the questions are way too old for me. I like it, so I like a music quiz, I like a golf quiz. Anything outside of that, I don't know anything about, so...
Okay, fine. Sorry to have embarrassed you. I've written either number 1 or number 2 on a piece of paper here, and it's going to determine who goes first, right? Unless you've got some system you'd already devised. So if you correctly guess the number, you get to go first. My final question is, are we doing it in that way that if you go first, I then get the next 2?
Exactly.
Fine. Yep. So is it number 1 or number 2 that I've written on this piece of paper in front of me?
Number 2.
You are correct. That's a number 2 for YouTube viewers.
So I get to go first.
You get to go first.
Which means
you're going to break my heart,
and I apologise for this, Ben. Angel Iora.
Very good. Very good. I don't suppose we need to elaborate greatly on...
Not really. I mean, it's just, he was so good last year. Obviously, very nearly earned his PGA Tour card. Nearly won on several occasions. He's just too good not to win, it feels like, this year.
Good.
Simple.
Okay, so I'm taking the next 2. And in my list here in front of me, which I don't want to veer from too much, I might make a rogue decision later on, but I'm going to take Wen Yi Ding, which is risky because I think Iora probably, if these were priced like with some sort of price tag, he probably would be the most expensive, but I don't think Ding would be second, but I'm going to take him anyway. He ended last year in great form. He's been a pro for about 15 months. The world's at his feet. I think he's a serious player, doesn't really have a weakness. Next, I'm going to go for Antoine Rosner, who I think is a solid selection. Back on the DP World Tour, he finished 158th in FedEx Cup points. He's just a class act at this level, and if he drives the ball well, he will be in the mix for PGA Tour cards at the end of the year. Okay.
Well, my next one is going to be my my younger lookalike, Martin Couvre, because he obviously won on his first season on the DP World Tour, which is impressive enough in itself. I think with a season under the belt, in the same way as Iora, he will improve. And I just think he's going to pick one off somewhere along the way. It may be one of the weaker events. I don't know. But his form dropped off a little bit towards the end of last season, it's fair to say. But his swing is too good, I think. He's just going to be, he might be one of those players, just a small thing is slightly off and, he misses a few cuts. But when it's back on again, he is a formidable player. So Couvra. And so that means I get the next one as well, does it?
Yeah.
In that case, I'm going to say Thriston Lawrence, because obviously I expected him to do a lot better on the PGA Tour. I'll be honest, but he's not the first player to go over there and struggle, and he won't be the last. He's just a cut above many of the long-standing DP World Tour members. He's a very, very good player. Again, I don't think has any real weaknesses. So yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Next for me, Daniel Hillier. Just had a really good, really the best year of his career last year.
Yeah.
Contended regularly. Probably a bit unfortunate not to win during the course of the season. I think he wasn't great under the gun late on Sundays, but he had some, he's playing with some very, very good players at times. I think he played with Rory. He's a quality ball striker whose putting's come good. So Daniel Hillier, don't expect him to be far away from those PGA Tour cards. I think he was the last man out in the end, wasn't he, after Daniel Brown inherited Laurie's spot. Next, I didn't include this player in my 10 to follow list, but I think is the percentage call is to take him ahead of a couple that were in that list. That's Eugenio Chacarra. Obviously, winner last year. A lot happened last year. He left LIV. There was a lot of talk about him. I think at some stage he was always going to sort of have a little bit of a lull, but towards the end of the season he came good again, contended, I want to say in Johannesburg, did he? Maybe the Nedbank, it was one of those. And yeah, there should be more to come from him. He's a very, very good player. And again, a little bit like Ding, he doesn't really have a weakness. So the putter at times has been. But yeah, Chacarra next.
Yeah, that was next on my list, so it's a little frustrating, but I've got other backups. And Jakob Skov-Olesen, you may not be surprised to see on my list. Just a very, very good all-round player and a brilliant season last year, and he had to do a lot to actually improve his status over the course of the year, because he started off with not great status, and by the end of it he's one of the best young players on the tour. So I love a lefty, Ben, and I think he will pick one off this year. And the next one, as you've stolen one of mine, I'm going to steal surely one of yours in Casey Jarvis, who, I think, you were the one that said you thought that both him and Shaper were going to win this year, this season, I should say, and Shaper's knocked off too. Jarvis is a little bit more volatile than Shaper. Quite a lot more volatile, actually, but he's got enough quality that he can win one of the co-sanctioned events, if not another event. But his best chances will be in South Africa, and yeah, I'll go for him.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Oliver Lindell next, then. Finnish, been around a long time, but actually he's only 27. He's a really quality iron player. I think, generally speaking, like that's the most sustainable skill in golf. No secret here. Really, apart from Wen Yiding, actually, so far I've gone with very, very good iron players. He can tidy up a little bit off the tee. He also had a bit of a putting slump towards the end of the year. I think the key thing to sort of underline his potential is he had a run of 8 positive putting events in a row in the middle of summer. I think he had 4 top 10s, 2 top 20s in that run. Like he made it pay. So if we can get some good putting weeks, I don't want to say consistency with the putter, just have those good putting weeks, I think he can do a lot. Next, I'm going to take one of yours just for the fun of it. I'm taking Elvis Smiley. Sod it. Come over to the dark side, Elvis. Welcome aboard. What needs to be said, you were absolutely right to call him out as one of the players to follow last year. He's got a really old head on young shoulders. He's very, very good off the tee. He's got an excellent short game. He's just a really, really good player, and he's another of those who wasn't far off PGA Tour membership. And a bit like Couvra, you just wonder if that maybe held them back at times last year. But as well as winning in Australia, I thought the way Smiley played in France, I think it was,
very good
when he was
France,
in the mix, like he just looked like he was not afraid of that moment. And he was in the mix with Brooks Koepka and Michael Kim and Minwoo Lee there. It's, no mugs. So Elvis Smiley's on my team this year. Sorry about that.
It feels wrong, Ben.
I know it does, doesn't it? Maybe we could trade. We'd have a transfer window.
You've also taken 2 that I had on my list there, because Lindell was going to be the next one that I mentioned, but it's fine. It's the way this way it works, so I can't I can't be angry. the next one I've gone for is slightly surprised actually you haven't mentioned him so far, because I think he's going to come over and play a reasonable number of events. Is Tom McKibben. I mean, I'd be interested to see how many he plays over the course of the year, but I think he'll be over enough to pick one off. Obviously, one in Hong Kong that wasn't co-sanctioned by the European Tour as it has been in the past, but that was a good win. He won by many strokes. I can't remember how many, something like 7 strokes if I remember correctly. And when he's on, he is one of the best young players in the game. Simple as that. And it's a shame he's playing over on LIV at the moment, but when he's back on the DP World Tour, he's got enough quality to win.
One little note on McKibben is that it can be very confusing, all the exemptions and categories and all that. I was just interested to see what his playing status was on the DP World Tour for this year, and he gets category 10 at the top with Rosner and whoever else, Nicholas Norgard or whatever it is, as the players who got their PGA Tour cards, and then have this as the safety net if that year doesn't go well. And I find that quite amusing because he didn't do it. but he's right at the top of category 10, which means, for example, it's serious implications. He's in the Dubai Invitational next week, which he wouldn't be if he was playing out some lowly category, because obviously his winner's exemption from Germany a few years ago has expired and stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting note.
That's an interesting note. I've got one more, I think, before I switch back to you. I'm going to go for Matt Wallace. He may be playing predominantly on the PGA Tour, but he was outside. Our rule was you have to be outside the top 100 on the FedEx Cup ranking. He was just outside. He'll be playing. He won't be playing much on the DP World Tour until the latter half of the season. But I can see him coming over and winning something like the Belfry or something like that. Just a very good player, and I think he's someone who his mental game is very, very strong. So yeah, I like him. How many have we had each? Have we had, is that 7 each? I don't know.
I'm on 5, 6. I've had 6. Obviously, I went second, so that means you. Yeah. So I'll speed us along a little bit here. I'm going to go with Tom Vaillant. Surprising myself a little bit here because I don't think he's got a top 5 finish on the DP World Tour in 2 years. But I thought at the end of last year, he's a small guy who hits it a long way. He putts well. At the end of last year, he was regularly in contention and not quite seeing it through. And I just think he's exactly the sort of player I could see. I don't even know if it's on the schedule. I don't think he is, actually. If they're playing in Singapore, he could win that. But he could win Mission Hills or one of these events that are definitely smaller. For the next one, I'm going to go with Alejandro Del Rey because I'm a sucker for someone who bombs it. He's a very similar player to Vaillant. Obviously, he was an impressive winner, a painful but impressive winner of the Ras Al Khaimah last year. He gets to defend that title soon, and once that's out of the way, I think there were signs at the back end of last year that for all his power, he's starting to harness it and improve his wedge play, and if he can do that, he's got a lot of talent. I think he's still one of the underachievers of the DP World Tour despite having won. So, Alejandro.
All right, I'm going to go quickly now just so we move on to other stuff. But my next two, Marcus Armitage. I wish I had the quote in front of me, but there's something along the lines of he's made some changes recently, and it has shown in his results towards the end of last year. He's obviously won on the DP World Tour before, and I don't see any reason why he can't win again on the right type of course. And then I'm going to dip into the Hotel Planetal graduates now, Ben. I'm going to go for Rocco Repetto Taylor, who I think has played some good stuff in his first few events. So I expect big things of him this year.
Good stuff. Right, I'll finish off with Joost Luiten. And for the purposes of this game, I'm going to play it safe and go Sam Bairstow. So Joost turns 40 in 2 days. The very brief example, when Pablo Larrazabal turned 40 2 years ago, he won the week before and he won the week after. And it's not the first time it's happened. I think for Joost, it could just be that thing that is the missing piece of the jigsaw. He's still the player he was in many respects. He just hasn't found a way to get over the line. I think it can happen for him this year. Sam Bairstow, last year, in the middle of last year, I think it was, he moved, changed location where he was living, new practice facilities, all that. Bit of upheaval. Maybe that excuses a bit of a down year, but I think based on his rookie season, we'd all say that he's got all the qualities to win on the DP World Tour. And now that he's more settled, hopefully he can do that. So I've taken him instead of some of the guys who are playing at a lower categories who might struggle to get into as many events.
Well, okay, for my last one, and I've had to make one up on the spot here, Ben, because we'd had so much crossover that I'd run out of players. But I had two that I nearly made my list earlier. It's between Lagergren and Brandon Robertson Thompson, but I'm going to go for Robertson Thompson just because I like the Isle of Wight. So he's my last one. Right, I'm going to take us on, Ben, to World of Golf this week. There's a few things happening. TGL is in action tomorrow with your team, the Bay GC, playing Atlanta Drive. Have there been any roster changes that you're aware of for the Bay?
No, I'm still waiting for news. But yeah, it's a tough intro, isn't it, against a primed Atlanta Drive? And maybe Patrick Cantlay's music will come on and he'll emerge from the under the thing. So we'll see.
I've been intrigued to see who starts for Atlanta Drive. Obviously, now I've got a roster of 6 players who've played for them.
It'd be harsh to drop any of last week's winners, wouldn't it?
It would be. I don't know how it works, to be honest. I imagine if Lucas Glover wants to play, then he gets to play ahead of Gotterup or Connors, who are probably better players. But anyway, Korn Ferry Tour is back in action. It starts on Sunday, which happens sort of this time of year, doesn't it? So it's the Bahamas Golf Classic at Atlantis Paradise Island. And just the thing to note, I mean, I looked through the entry list and you see the immediate impact of the PGA Tour going from 125 cars to 100. There's some really good players in the field. You know, some very long-standing PGA Tour members. You know, Camilo Villegas for one, Nick Hardy, who's won on the PGA Tour, for another. Taylor Montgomery, who I think is a really good player. There's Cameron Champ, a several-time PGA Tour winner. So yeah, it's there are some good players in the field. Any notes on this one at all?
Going to be really windy. So, you know, there'll be a good chunk of randomness, given that a lot of guys haven't played for a while, and it's going to blow. So, yeah, we'll see. I guess anyone who played Q School in Florida, it's not that long ago, and it will have been a bit windy there, so maybe that'll be an advantage. But no, I'm going to avoid temptation and just observe the leaderboard.
Okay. The Australian Tour is back in action. It's the WebEx Player Series in Perth. The only real note I've got here is that Beef Johnson is in the field, who now lives in Perth. And I suppose the event of note really this week is the LIV Promotions event, which we mentioned earlier on. So 3 players will earn a wildcard spot into LIV next year. This takes place at Black Diamond Ranch in Florida. One note that I had, so I've been in touch with Callum Tarrant about this, because when the initial entry list was published, he was on the list, you may remember. I noticed that his name has been removed now, so I got in touch with him and said, why are you not playing? And he basically said, I won't repeat the exact language he used, but he's not very happy with the PGA Tour's rule of banning anyone who takes place in this event, whether or not they're successful or not. So yeah, he's decided that it's not worth the risk because he doesn't want to be banned for a year. So you can sympathise with him. You know, he's got a Hotel Planetor status, so he's got somewhere to play. But it seems harsh for him to be banned for turning up. And there's been a few other players. Tyler Hodge, Barkley Brown, and Yuxin Lin have also withdrawn from that initial entry list. Yuxin Lin, of course, won Asian Tour Q School, so he's got sort of status now. But yeah, the other things of note. I mean, there's a few players who narrowly missed out on the top 100 on the Korn Ferry Tour. Andrew Kozan, Grant Hirschman, MJ Defoe. They've obviously decided it's worth the risk, I suppose, because they've only got limited starts on the Korn Ferry Tour this year. In terms of DP World Tour players, Alex Levy, Max Kiefer, Lucas Bjerregaard, they were all narrowly outside the top 130 on the DP World Tour, which meant they only had Category 20 on the DP World Tour and Hotel Planet Tour Category 7, which is decent status on the Hotel Planet Tour, but they're obviously looking at bigger things. And then, going further down, Matthias Schwab, Callum Shinkwin, Pierre Pinot, they were all outside the 176 on the DP World Tour, which means basically no start, well, hardly any starts even on the Hotel Planet Tour. So for them, it's kind of a no-brainer, I'd say. But yeah,
I'm a little bit surprised there aren't more DP World Tour players, because the PGA Tour are banning them for a year. The DP World Tour aren't doing that. There's no corresponding event, so you wouldn't be fined. So there's nothing to prohibit you from giving it a try. And if you get one of those 3 cards, as we demonstrate with Freddie Ketchup, you've won $1 million straight off the bat. So I'm a bit surprised. There may be more to it that I don't know about, but yeah.
Yeah, well, the last thing I want to say before we go on to highest bidder is one little sliced announcement, which is we've talked about the fact that we're going to have a golf day. Now, the date is confirmed. It's going to be Friday, the 10th of April, which is Masters Friday. We haven't got a course yet, but we are looking into courses. It will be in the Oxfordshire area, and we will put out more information on this in due course. But just to say that is happening. If you're interested, if you've previously said you're interested, then mark that date on your calendar. And that leads us into...
It's the highest bidder. It's the highest bidder. It's the highest bidder. It's the highest bidder.
Right, we have a couple of highest bidder submissions, I'm glad to say, and a listener, Chris Hall, has been in touch over the last few days, and he has given us one, which just came in, and the topic is as follows, Ben. I think it's me to go first, and you get a chance to outbid me. Highest bidder question, appropriate for post-Christmas. How many golf films can you name?
Loads, loads. I know loads of golf films, Sam. The pressure's on.
Well, see, I'm not a big film watcher generally, but funnily enough, if I do sit down and watch a film, it tends to be a golf one. So it's
your bid. What are you saying?
My bid, isn't it? Okay. Let's go 6.
Yes, that's fine. Carry on.
Wow, you're really not confident on this.
You could have said 1, Sam, and I'd let you do it. So 6 is way higher. I don't know any. The Legend of whatever his name is. It? Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to embarrass myself. Carry on.
Okay. Well, I mean, no, this is not. It's not a slam dunk 6 by any means. I'm just. I feel like I should be able to name 6. Happy Gilmore.
Very good.
Happy Gilmore 2.
Very good. I'd have got those, you see. We got one more.
Now, there's one that I've never seen, but people always talk about it when they're talking about the best golf films, and that's Caddyshack.
Yep, that would have been my third. But then there's the Legend of whatever he's called. It's not Chavo Guerrero.
Legend of Bag something like Bagger something. I don't know. Maybe not. I feel like there's a Caddyshack 2. Well, I'm going to say that, and I've got a mulligan if it's not. So
yeah, carry on.
Can you Google and see if that's a thing?
Caddyshack 2, 1988 comedy film, okay. 1 hour 39 minutes.
Brilliant. In that case, I think I should be able to complete my 6 because there's a very good film called The Greatest Game Ever Played, which you can currently watch on Disney Plus, Ben, if you have a subscription.
Okay.
And is that okay?
It's about Francis Weemail, whatever he's called. Yeah. Wow, he always comes up in highest bidders about
Yes, that's right.
Golfers from the early 20th century.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And the last one I'm going to say, and the reason I remember this is I was out at the PGA show in Florida a couple of years ago, and I met there Dennis Quaid, and he was there.
Brilliant.
He was there to because they were doing a premiere of a film called The Long Game, which he was in.
It's about golf, was it?
It's about golf. So he was, and I have seen it subsequently, actually. I can't remember. It might have been on Netflix or something, or maybe I saw it on a flight. But The Long Game.
You make no comment about the quality of the film. Carry on.
It was decent.
Sure, of course it was.
Well, that's it. That's my 6, I think, Ben.
What a start to the year. And I would say if the questions continue to be around sort of golf periphery, films, songs, general entertainment, but not in any way related to the professional game, you could be hard to peg back. And I will note, Sam, that of the options, you're the one who picks. So I'm going to keep an open mind here.
Well, come on. You've got a decent lead here, Ben.
Well, I'm behind. You did a clean slate.
Well, I mean, it's clean-ish. I mean, you're on 12 points. I'm now on 5. But
why am I on 12 points?
It's in my defence. We only received 2 highest bidder topics. Okay. So I had an A and a B.
Very good. Congrats! I'm being a sore loser here, aren't I? Congratulations. That was expertly navigated.
Thank you. Right, that brings us to the end of our very first episode of 2026. Thank you as ever for listening. Please do, if you haven't already, rate and review the podcast. We would be very grateful if you can do so. And the last thing to say, there will be some information shortly about a little sponsor that we've brought on board to Sliced for 2026. So there will be more to come about that. In the meantime, we look forward to chatting next week.